So we're going to hear from the Scottish Apples group first, with Amanda and Roger. So if you've got questions, do ask them in the chat box, and then we'll have the Q&A session after that. So we'll just smoothly move into that next bit. So Roger Howison farms at Parkhill in Fife, and I hope it's nice and sunny there like it is in Edinburgh today, Roger.
Can't you tell? I'm right in front of the window.
Yeah. Yeah. And Amanda Brown is a facilitator who's from SAOS, and they're exploring how to bring commercial apple growing industry back to Scotland. And so we'll sort of talk a bit about your experiences of being part of a risk group, the process of sort of developing that idea, and a sort of focus on the importance of shorter supply chains and local food, and how that sort of feels more relevant just now more than ever. So Roger, do you want to give a sort of brief overview of the group and how you got involved in it?
Yeah, first off, the picture in the slide's what I normally look like, with a short back and sides and clean shaven. So this is quite good before and after.
Everybody's got a bit more hair at the moment than normal.
Right. Yeah, so my name's Roger. I am a farmer, Parkhill farm up in Newborough, northeast Fife. It's a mixed farm. We don't have our own livestock though, so we let the grazing out. But we grow, it's 537 acres, and we grow malting barley, winter wheat, spring oats, and we have peas and potatoes in the rotation as well. My wife and I took over the farm 2011 from my parents, and we were looking to diversify into different things that interested us and that were suitable to the land. Newborough, the local town, is famous for its ancient apple trees due to the nearby Lindores Abbey, so we knew that apples grew quite well. So in the area, so we decided that we would plant apple trees, and not wanting to go down the traditional orchard route because we're trying to reduce inputs, we discovered this alley cropping system of growing apple trees from a chap called Stephen Briggs down in Peterborough. Went down to see his farm, thought this is a great idea, and that's what we did. So 2016-17, we planted 750 apple trees in 10 rows through a 15-acre arable field. And we, with a view to processing the apples ourselves when they do eventually we do eventually get a decent harvest, either into cider or juice. A backup plan is to market them and sell them wholesale to other producers, such as Cairnmore or Thistley Cross, or some of the other cider growers that are popping up. So that's my story to date.
And how did you get involved with the group? Did Amanda get in touch with you, or how did you hear about it?
Yeah, so this would be the end of last summer, September, October. Well, we had met a few apple growers through starting the project ourselves, but not that many, and it's quite, so there's not many out there, so it was quite difficult to network. And we had known, we'd met Catherine Drummond-Herman, who lives at Megginch Castle on the other side of the River Tay from us, and she has a huge orchard. So a few years ago, we had got together with Catherine and see if we could get some sort of organisation together, Catherine driving it, and it kind of fell by the wayside. And then last year, Catherine must have started working with Amanda, and so Amanda got in touch with us, that would be September, October last year, and organised the first meeting over at Megginch Castle with a couple of other people, and that was the start of it.
And I think it's fair to say, actually, that with the support that we've got from RIS, that's how I was able to get involved and to help the group, because I think, as Roger alludes to, they had informally got together a while ago, but because there was nobody there sort of creating the glue at the centre of the group, it wasn't able to make that much progress on its own, because these guys, they're farmers, they have other day jobs. Whereas this is my day job. I get to help people like Roger and the group to do the things that they need to do to progress.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's great because I clearly see the difference from what we're achieving with Amanda compared to what we were trying to achieve when it was just a couple of few growers together with no professional facilitator. 'Cause when it was like that, it was, well, who's going to do that, and who's going to go and do this, and so nothing ever really happened. So I mean, the snowball is rolling very quickly now and getting very big with Amanda. So, but it's great. It's very, very exciting.
And it is great because, again, with help from RIS, we got some media coverage about 3 weeks ago, which started off in the press. Then the same article went into the Glasgow Herald, the National, all the regional titles. And out of that, we've had probably nearly 30 inquiries from people who are growing across the breadth of Scotland.
Really?
Right from the islands down to the borders, people that we weren't aware of, which is just super to know that there's other people of scale out there.
Yeah, because our last,
because that was going to be my question.
Yeah, our last, we had
Sorry,
our,
Roger, on you go.
sorry, we had our third meeting about 2 weeks ago. It was an online one, and it was great because there was new people there off the back of the press releases that Amanda and Riss had managed to get, and it was, but for me to because one chap was from Stonehaven. So, I mean, I would probably have never gone up there, but to be able to chat to him online and listen to his story, it was, wow, this is fascinating. So now I definitely want to meet him and go and just experience what he's doing and learn from him. And I don't think I would have ever felt like that had I just found this chap on a website and Googled it and thought, oh, can I cold call him and introduce myself? So, you kind of, oh,
you've
maybe
not
not.
got that kind of link.
Yeah.
So there's a question in chat box from Joe Hunt saying, how do you find group members? They have a commercial apple orchard, so doing through things like having press coverage and things, I suppose opens that up to more people,
and
as well, and then through your connections as well in your networks.
Yeah, and I think what I feel I've been doing, particularly in the last 4 or 5 months, is I feel I've been putting the jigsaw together, because actually, you know, there's more people out there doing different things that we didn't know about. There's people still out there that we don't know about. But part of the things that we need to work on next is the profile. You know, we don't have a web presence. We don't have a website page that tells anybody anything about Scottish apples and who we are, what we are. So that's sort of the next stage of certainly just getting a bit more profile and presence out there so that we can connect people, or we can pull people in to be part of the group. Because I think, as Roger says, that one of the huge benefits of this is actually the farmers and the growers being able to talk to each other about their experiences. Because what we know, because of the geography and the climate in Scotland, is, you know, Roger's experience of growing an orchard in northeast Fife will be quite different even from growing an orchard in the Carse of Gowrie. So, you know, it's whilst there will be similarities and there'll be similar issues and similar opportunities, everyone's growing experience is just a little bit different.
Yeah, and there's just I see the questions coming up to you there, Colleen, and asking, never heard of the group. Is there a Facebook group? And just so to answer those, we're sort of at the moment we're halfway between informal and formal, like it's being formally established as a group. So we've only had 3 meetings, so two in person and then one online one. But as Amanda was just saying there, we're going to formalize all this at some point. But we have Amanda till.
But you're sort of quite early on in that process still.
We have you till March next year, so it's early days, but it will be formalized. And if you're interested in the group, I think there'll be a contact details from maybe Amanda at the end of this, and you can get in touch with Amanda.
Get in contact. One of the things I'm very keen to be able to put on the website when we get there is a directory of people who are commercially growing. And I think it's important to differentiate, because this is about commercial growing, because we know that there are community orchards as well. We'll be creating a link between the two, but this is very much about commercial output and thinking about how people can then sell what they grow to obviously make.
That's actually been quite an interesting. Sorry, I was just going to say
it links to one of the questions. Okay, on you go.
Oh, you go, man. Or just quickly, it was just
Um,
the commercial aspect of it is primary. But just on a quick side, it's been very interesting for me through this group to meet non-farming people that are growing apples commercially as well. So, yeah, just because that's another avenue for me to get into and meet people which I'm not involved in, because most of the people I deal with are farmers.
uh-huh.
So that's been a good thing.
Yes, is that people with sort of other businesses and then a piece of land that they're growing apples on
Yep,
as a
Yeah,
sort of
yep.
separate
absolutely.
enterprise?
Yeah.
hmm
Okay. And so, yeah, I was just linking back to one of the other questions in the chat, which is what is the potential market for heritage apples in Scotland? Or have you got a sense of that yet? Or are you sort of at
Good
the beginning of
question.
finding that out?
Well, I mean, I just Scotland used to have a great history in apple production in the
Yeah.
18th, 19th century, and it really sort of died out in the 1930s, 1940s when we started importing apples from Europe. But we have this such as great heritage, and Scottish apples taste great. So I firmly believe, and I think many people in the group, Catherine especially, believe in Scottish apples for Scottish people. So the more Scottish apples that we can grow and start infiltrating the market, then I think we will create a market for them.
Yeah, and even just yesterday, actually, Catherine, who we're referring to, and I had a conversation with someone who's interested in sourcing some Scottish apples for a retail operation, which is fab. And
Okay.
so you see the increasing penetration even of British apples, particularly in England and Wales. So
Hmm.
there's definitely an appetite for locally grown produce, and I suppose never more so than now, actually, as well, where we're seeing obviously
Yeah.
a great
Yeah.
interest in local food again.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember the figure that somebody told me recently around veg boxes and the sort of surge in interest in veg and fruit boxes and sort of produce from local producers, and it was something ridiculous like 900% increase to one website that had sort of several veg boxes on it. So I think there's definitely at the moment increased appetite and interest in things that are produced locally and regionally. And with the sort of change that's happened since the lockdown and the interest in that, do you think there's more emphasis from your perspective on the sort of importance of shorter supply chains and what that could look like going forward?
Yes, definitely for me as a farmer. I just want to touch on we grow a lot of malting barley. Well, we've got about 100 acres of malting barley this year, and now they're saying because of this COVID-19 outbreak that there may not be much of a market for malting barley because the distilleries are all closed. The maltsters, there's not that many in Scotland. They're all huge, so they need a massive amount of barley for them to malt to stay open. So they're to me as a great example of why these smaller supply chains are going to be crucially important.
Okay, and just having a quick look at some of the questions. Do you have any plans to make cider from your apples?
Yes, we do. Yeah. So with the 750 apple trees that we planted, I think it's about my wife Rachel should be here because she's the one that chose the varieties for the right mix. But I think about 75% of them are cider apple trees, and the majority of those are actually English varieties. And then the other 30% of the apples are all Scottish heritage varieties, dessert eaters, and it's all designed to. We needed a good cider base, and then the Scottish varieties are hopefully to give it that proper Scottish apple twist in the taste. So that's what we hope to do. The business plan for actually making the cider is not complete yet, and we won't. There's not enough apple trees there for us to make it a big commercial entity. So if we make our own cider, it will be just to supply some local farmers markets, perhaps the local distillery, and we're developing a holiday let business on the farm. So that's something else that we want to feed our local produce into.
Okay, and another question here, will the group look at what the implications of the change in climate are going to have on the ability to grow apples in Scotland? And what do you think those changes might be like?
Yes, I think yes, we definitely will. And will they be positive or negative? I think they'll probably be positive, because apple trees are traditionally all brought up from France, which is a warmer climate down there. So sadly, maybe as the climate warms up, we'll be able to grow better, bigger, more apples up here. What we're doing on the farm is quite experimental because of the English cider apples that we're growing up here. So they're not traditionally grown up here, and that's possibly because of the climate. So we're monitoring these and seeing how they're doing, and this will just maybe if we do get great crops off these English cider varieties, can we put that down to the changing climate? Not really sure yet, but it's probably a yes. I see glyphosate coming up there. No,
Oh yeah.
we don't. Sorry, Colleen, I'm jumping in there. Can I turn the questions off so I don't see them?
No, that's fine. Yeah. No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, Lorna Dawson saying East Malling, lots of data available from research on apple.
And
apple tree growth and yields.
I mean, we just to sort of probably just explain, we've made contact with James Hutton actually, and speaking to some of the team there, who I suppose traditionally have had expertise in cherry and soft fruit growth. But obviously, as Roger has alluded to, we've been growing apples in Scotland for a long time, so there's knowledge there that we know that we can tap into. But we've also made contact with AHDB.
Yeah, it's just finding it again, isn't it?
Based south of the border, and they have a pile of research into orchards and apple growing, which we're able to tap into too. But again, I think as Roger's just alluded to there, I think it's acknowledging that we need to be able to pull together and collaborate and coordinate the Scottish evidence, so that we can start to understand what the differences might be. Because yes, as the climate changes, it could well be that varieties that grow very well in England could grow well in Scotland in 10 years' time, but we might not know that until we start actually to test.
And that's just what Amanda's saying there about the technical advice we're now getting. Being part of this risk group with Amanda, making contact with AHDB and the James Hutton Institute, I think that's a lot more effective for getting good advice and getting a contact in there than just myself going there. So now the James Hutton Institute and AHDB know that there's this group of apple growers together in Scotland. So now they know there's a voice out there. There's more people doing it. So there might be a bit more help coming.
Yeah, and I suppose that's the benefit of risk compared to sort of just doing it individually, is that you wouldn't be able to tap into all those kind of networks and sources of information.
And I think it's probably, it's fair to say, we're taking baby steps here at the same time. We've come a long way in terms of pulling people into the group, and as Roger says, it's informal, more informal than formal at the moment. But it's just the fact that we're able to start gathering all of this information is such a benefit, actually. And hopefully, as we start to better organise and coordinate it, the impact will be felt by more people.
Yeah, because I suppose there's the sort of risk phase where you're pulling lots of this together, but then at some point that sort of stops and then becomes something bigger beyond that. So the sort of risk phase helps develop and refine what that bigger scale next step will be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.